What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to Model Airplane Review. It's your host, Ray. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the NG model Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800 in the Freedom 1 Special Livery. This is a 1/400 scale die-cast model airplane replica, and this video is being made at the request of one of my subscribers. If you see a model in my collection that I haven't reviewed that you'd like me to review, you may request that down below in the comment section, and I'll get that started as soon as I can. There is a link to a full database of my die-cast airplane model collection, so if you see one in there that you want me to review, request it. I'll get that started for you shortly. This is also my first video back after my surgery. I'm back to narrating things, and it was a pretty tough recovery process, but I'm glad to be back, and the operation went well, so there's that. So stay tuned for a bit more content. I definitely have a few things planned, and that's what I've got for you guys. In this video of this very patriotic bird, I'll be talking about the box and the model itself, and at the end of the video I'll provide a recommendation about what I think of the model and whether or not I recommend it to other collectors. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Starting off with the box, this is the standard NG model 1/400 scale Boeing 737-800 box at 12.5 centimeters lengthwise, 13 centimeters height-wise. It's more 13 centimeters this way, sorry about that, and 3.5 centimeters wide. I'll show you around the box now. So here's the front, bottom, right side, top, left side, and the back side. Once you open up the box, you get the model itself fully painted and assembled and ready to go for your collection. Before I begin my review, I'm going to give you a quick 360 of the model, so just take a moment to look at the plane. This model was released in July of 2021, I believe, or June. It was in the summer of 2021. That being said, this model was not released as part of the Collector Rewards program, which started later that year. This model is made out of die-cast metal, so it's pretty heavy for its size, and it's accurate to 1/400 scale. Fuselage length for this model is about 10 centimeters, wingspan is 9 centimeters, and the height of this model is about 3.3 centimeters. Starting up the review at the front of the aircraft, we'll talk about the fuselage first. Here we can see the nose section of the plane and the stars and stripes here, or the stars, the stripes are more down the fuselage. Nose shape, as per usual, looks pretty solid. It's NG 737 mold. They have a great nose shape. Printed detail looks pretty good. The stars look very nicely done. I don't see any issues there. You can see the little heart logo right here too. It looks very nice. The Freedom 1 title looks good. As we move down the fuselage, we can see the transition from the star pattern to the stripes pattern. Overall looks really good. The waving flag looks amazing. Paint application looks pretty consistent overall. I do see a little bit of a red spot here, so it's not perfect, but it's still pretty solid. And I can't really discredit the paint too much because this is a pretty complex livery, so I'd imagine it's hard to produce. Here's a vertical stabilizer. It looks pretty solid up here, and I do notice a bit of an issue with the paint here. Not sure if the silver is supposed to continue all the way down here, but it kind of has a weird transition there, almost as if it was hand painted. It's something that looks like something I would do. Anywho, it looks pretty solid. There's a few dust specks here and there, but no complaints really. Moving to the right side of the aircraft here, we can see the right side of the vertical stabilizer looks pretty solid as well. I'm going to move down the fuselage. Everything that can be said about the left side of the aircraft can also be said about the right side in terms of the fuselage details and all that stuff, so I won't provide much commentary on that. Moving on to the wings, here's the top of the left wing. The wings look pretty solid overall with a great mixture of molded, painted, and printed detail. Molded detail in the form of the control surfaces back here. All of these are very clearly defined and they look pretty solid overall. You can also see the leading edge slats here, and they're painted in their metallic gray. Yes, I didn't stutter while saying that. Let's go. I usually stutter at this point. Printed detail looks pretty solid as well. There is an inaccuracy with the printed detail here, and it is this extended section of border right here. This is actually not present on the real thing, so this is a pretty significant inaccuracy. You'd think NG would figure this one out, but I guess they missed it. It's not the biggest infraction in the world, but it is definitely an inaccuracy. Moving to the scimitar tips, as per usual with NG, these are pretty solid. They're just painted a nice, very light gray or white color. I think it's just light gray. Looks pretty good, no complaints there. Edges are very sharp, which is good. Bottom of the wings, there's no printed detail, but painted and molded detail looks pretty solid. And even the flap fairings, I think that's what they're called, are very nicely done as well. Here you can see they're painted red like on the real thing. The metallic gray on the leading edge slats is also very noticeable and applied pretty well here, so that's very good. Now for the rear section of the aircraft, here we can see the horizontal stabilizers and the APU. Horizontal stabilizers look pretty good. Don't mind that little piece of hair that's on there that I can never seem to remove. There we go. Horizontal stabilizers look decent. There's no printed detail on there, but there's also not that much detail to put on here, so I won't complain there. Bottom side looks okay as well. And we're going to transition right to the fuselage. Paint application here looks pretty solid. I'm not 100% sure if that red line right there is accurate. I'm going to hope it is. It looks pretty symmetrical and very nicely applied. Holy cow. I'm looking at the stripes pattern down here and the difference between the grays and the whites and the reds. They're all very nicely done. Usually down here you'd see some sort of asymmetrical paint application, but overall everything looks pretty good, so they definitely did very good on that. Here's the APU back here, looks pretty solid as well. It's just a gray spot on the fuselage. Just kidding, there's a paint application issue with the APU here. The gray kind of extends a little bit too far on this side because the APU is not supposed to look like that. It's better done on the right side. This is actually what it's supposed to look like, so you can definitely see it did extend a little bit too far. Once again, another small detail, but it is a minor infraction that I did notice. Moving on to the engines on this model look pretty good. They're fantastic as per usual with NG737. Details look pretty good, the paint application looks solid, and here's the fan blades. Those look pretty good as well. Exhaust looks nice, which with its dark metallic gray there, and the bottom looks good with a decent selection of printed detail that's there to see. Not that much, but it's still pretty good nonetheless. Moving on to aerial details, this model features a mixture of antennas, sat domes, and that's it. I thought there was something else, sorry about that. On the top of the aircraft, there are 2 antennas and 1 sat dome. There is a large antenna at the center of the fuselage and a smaller one closer to the vertical stabilizer. These look good, no alignment issues that I know of, and they're pretty solid. The sat dome here is just the only sat dome on the plane. It too looks pretty good. Symmetry with these, with the center of the aircraft, is also very good. Sometimes on 1 to 400 scale aircraft, they're a little bit off balance, but these look pretty solid. On the bottom of the aircraft, we have 3 large antennas. There's one at the front section of the fuselage. If you can see it, it's right in front of the star here. Kind of hard to see there, but it's there. And there's 2 more towards the center of the aircraft. All of these look pretty good as well. I didn't see any attachment issues. And overall, I don't remember there being any major quality control issues with this model. However, don't quote me on that because my memory is kind of faulty with that kind of stuff. Landing gear on this model is pretty solid. You can see the nose gear here. It's nicely detailed. The wheels do roll. They're made out of rubber and they roll very smoothly, so that's very nice to see. You can see the 500 logo on there, or not logo, but the number there is printed nicely. Main landing gear are also nicely detailed. They too do roll, and their wheels are made out of rubber. And on the outside, you can see that the rims were painted red, like on the real aircraft, so it matches the bottom of the fuselage. And so was the cover here. The top of it is painted red as well, so NG definitely cared about the fine detailing on this model. Here's a view of the front of the aircraft. Here we can evaluate engine clearance, gear balance, wing flex, all that fun stuff. Cockpit window printing looks pretty symmetrical overall. I can't really tell that much, but it looks pretty good. Wing flex also looks well within acceptable margins and symmetrical as well. Gear balance looks good. Engine clearance looks good. And even the symmetry with the antennas, sat dome, and the vertical stabilizer, all of that looks very nice. And that concludes my review for this model. Now time for my personal opinion and recommendation. This model is very nicely detailed, and it replicates a very beautiful looking aircraft. So that being said, I definitely recommend this model to other collectors. It does have that inaccuracy on the wings. Sorry, I had a quick interruption there. But it's really not the biggest infraction in my opinion. If that is kind of a big issue for you, there's also the Gemini Jets version, which from what I can see, it's not the best overall. It's definitely not as good as this model, but that detail is correct on that model. So I definitely recommend this model to other collectors if you can find it anywhere. This was released in 2021. That's 2 years ago. So I'd imagine it's well out of stock by now. But if you can find one, go for it. That's all I've got for you guys today. Stay tuned for more aerospace content. I'm trying to get things out as fast as I can, but please understand I have a very busy work schedule as I'm preparing for college too. So yeah, there's only so much I can do. I have been hard at work with the plastic scale models, so I have a very big surprise for you guys coming up later this month, so stay tuned for that. That's all I've got for you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in my next video.